The koi bathhouse had stood for 60 years, a place of warmth and tradition. For the past decade, it had been home to Mori, a man who spent his nights cleaning its halls long after the doors had closed. As he wiped down the wooden floors, he spoke to himself, reflecting on his quiet existence. This place has been my home and work for 10 years. Cleaning after midnight is the perfect job for me. You could even say it's my reason for existence. Satisfied with his work, he turned on some music, letting the melody echo against the bathhouse walls. Then, without hesitation, he began to dance, mop in hand, his movements fluid and carefree. But his moment of solitude was interrupted. "Mori?" He froze mid-step. Turning sharply, he saw Tatsuno Rihito standing at the entrance. "You're still awake?" Mori asked, quickly setting the mop aside. "Was I too loud?" Rihito shook his head. "Don't worry about it. I just wanted to chat." Mori arched an eyebrow. "Aren't you starting school tomorrow? You shouldn't be up this late. It's bad for your skin." Rihito sighed as he settled into a chair, offering Mori a can of tomato juice. "I know, but I'm too nervous to sleep." "Nervous? About what?" Rihito hesitated before answering. "I'll be in a pretty rowdy class. I'm worried about getting bullied." Mori scoffed. "Oh, is that all? No need to worry. If anyone bullies you, I'll smash there." Rihito's eyes widened in alarm. "As smash?" Mori cleared his throat, taking a sip of his drink. "Smash some potatoes into croquettes and serve them to your bullies. Then I'll kindly ask them to be nice to you." Rihito blinked in confusion before chuckling softly. "I don't get it, but thanks." Mori smiled, but as he looked at Rihito, his thoughts drifted back to the past, 10 years ago. A decade earlier, Mori had been on the run, his body weakened, his skin scorched by the sun. He had been near death, desperate for help. He had called out to a child who was playing near him. The child had run away. Mori had slumped to the ground, murmuring to himself, "No one will help someone like me." But just as he prepared for the end, the child returned, with help. That child had been Rihito. A familiar voice pulled Mori back to the present. "There you are," Rihito's father called as he stepped into the room. "Let's drink to Rihito's first day of high school." Rihito groaned. "Dad, you already drank yesterday to celebrate my last day of middle school." His father laughed heartily. "So what? Every day is worth celebrating." As he poured himself a drink, he clapped Mori on the shoulder. "And thanks for keeping this place so clean. No fancy saunas or jacuzzis here, but this bathhouse shines." Mori smiled. "It's clean because it's been carefully looked after for generations." Rihito's father smirked. "Still, I feel bad paying you so little." Mori shook his head. "I'm not here for the money. I'm very fond of this place." His father grinned. "Oh yeah? How about working for free then?" "Dad," Rihito muttered, exasperated. "Mori will quit if you keep saying things like that." Mori simply smiled. As long as he could stay near Rihito, 3 more years would pass in a blink. As Rihito left from bathhouse, his father called out to his wife. "Honey! Some red wine for boys." "Roger that," she called from the kitchen. At the dinner table, Rihito's grandfather, old and frail, squinted at Mori. "Who are you?" the old man asked. Rihito chuckled. "It's Mori, Grandpa. He's been working here for 10 years. The grandfather hummed. "How old are you?" Mori smiled. "About 450 years old." Grandfather blinked. "That's quite a stint." Rihito laughed. "It's just Mori's running gag, Pops." But the old man shook his head. "For a moment I thought the Grim Reaper had come to visit." Mori smirked. "Well, I have lived through a great deal." Rihito's father grinned. "And a busy love life too, right?" "I've heard all about it." Mori sighed. "I may have spoken too much about myself. Maybe I'm a little tipsy." Rihito's mother nudged her husband. "Honey, don't tease Mori." She turned to Mori with an apologetic smile. "Sorry, he's built up this strange image of you." Mori shook his head. "Not at all. Being with this family is always pleasant." Rihito stretched. "Look how late it is. I should sleep." Before heading upstairs, he turned back. "Thanks, Mori." Mori tilted his head. "For what?" "For encouraging me," Rihito said softly. "I feel like you're always looking out for me, but I'm starting high school tomorrow. I can't rely on you forever." Mori's expression softened. "Don't be silly. You can rely on me forever." Rihito smiled. "All right, maybe I will. Good night, Mori." Mori watched him leave, his gaze lingering. Then, quietly to himself, he whispered. "What an unsullied soul. His uncorrupted, beautiful body. Some boys change when they mature, dye their hair, get piercings, but not Rihito. His silky jet black hair, his flawless skin. Even now, at 15, I can already smell his ripening scent. I could drink him dry right this moment. Should I even wait? Mori exhaled sharply. No. I've resisted for a decade. Just 3 more years. How could I go without tasting him at his peak? I must come to my senses. A voice interrupted his thoughts. Mori? He turned to see Rihito's mother watching him curiously. What are you doing? She asked. Mori composed himself. Just heading out for a bit. At this time of night? Yes. Excuse me. He quickly left. The next morning, Rihito sprinted down the street, toast in his mouth. I'm late. I stayed up too long. At a street corner, he collided into someone. I'm sorry. Are you okay? He gasped. A soft voice answered. I should be apologizing. Are you hurt? Rihito looked up and froze. The girl standing before him was breathtaking. She smiled. Oh no, your toast. He picked it up, took a bite, and both laughed. At school, as the teacher welcomed the students, Rihito wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on the girl from earlier. That night, he rushed home and burst into Mori's room, only to find the vampire sleeping naked. Mori groggily sat up. What happened? Were you bullied? No, Rihito said. But I think I'm in love. Mori went rigid. Love? No, if he falls in love, he won't stay pure. Forcing a smile, he said. Leave it to me. Rihito beamed. You'll support me? Mori's smile darkened and he thinks just 3 more years. I won't let love ruin everything. He waited a decade just to drink Rihito fresh blood. It's time for the reward of his patience. Thus began Operation Virginity Loss Prevention. The next evening, as the warm steam of the bathhouse filled the air, Mori casually dropped a bombshell. Rihito is in love. Rihito, who had been soaking in the water peacefully, nearly choked. He turned to Mori with wide eyes. What? Why would you tell my dad? I told you to keep it a secret. Mori, resting against the edge of the bath, gave him a nonchalant look. I thought the Tatsuno family had no secrets. Rihito's father chuckled. That's right, Rihito. No need to hide anything. Now give me the details. Still flustered, Rihito muttered. She's really cute and sweet. His father waved a hand dismissively. Nothing special about that. Mori nodded in agreement. I have to say, it's fairly standard. But, Mori continued, turning to Rihito's father, he did bump into her at a street corner on his first day of school. At this, his father burst into laughter. Ah, I see. You've been reading too many girl comics, Rihito. Rihito groaned. No. It really happened. His father grinned. Well, as someone with life experience, let me give you some advice. Always wear a rubber. From the other side of the bath, Rihito's grandfather, who had been silently soaking, gave a sage nod. Wise words. The bathhouse was filled with laughter, but Mori wasn't amused. His jaw clenched, and he slammed his hand against the edge of the tub. This is not the kind of advice he needs. Mori snapped. Rihito is still 15. He should be focusing on studying, playing games, staying away from love and these foolish distractions. As a parent, you should be teaching him that. His sudden outburst made the room fall silent. Rihito's father coughed awkwardly. All right. Maybe that was a bit much. I shouldn't have joked like that. But Rihito was already irritated. Stop making fun of me, he yelled, standing up from the bath. He grabbed his towel and stormed off. Mori exhaled sharply, running a hand through his damp hair. This is getting out of hand. Later that night, Mori stood outside Rihito's room, knocking softly. Rihito? There was silence, then the door creaked open slightly. Mori lowered his head. I apologize. I shouldn't have lost my temper. Rihito sighed. You came at the right time. He leaned against the doorframe. I was thinking about what to talk about with her next time I see her. Mori blinked. What do you mean? Rihito grinned. You said you'd do anything for your apology, right? So, help me. Mori gave a small smile. I see. In that case. He placed a hand on his chin thoughtfully. I suppose I'll just kill her. What? Mori's eyes widened. I mean, massage her shoulders asterisk. Rihito recoiled. Straight to physical contact? What kind of love affairs did you have? Mori cleared his throat. Forget it. That was a mistake. Rihito crossed his arms. Then tell me. If you like someone, how would you express your feelings? Mori fell silent. A shadow crossed his face as memories surfaced. 50 years ago, Mori's master had summoned him. He had spoken in solemn tones, telling Mori that it was time for him to take charge. And so, with reverence, Mori had sunk his fangs into his master's neck. He had drained his blood, ensuring that no other vampire could take his life. That had been his way of protecting his master's legacy, by becoming the sole heir of his power. That had been the end of a bond that Mori had cherished. None of my loves ever came to fruition, Mori murmured. His voice was heavy, distant. That's just how romance is. I don't want you to suffer that kind of sadness. Yet, even after hearing this, do you still love this girl? Rihito hesitated before nodding. When I think about her, my heart pounds so much I can't sleep. He let out a small chuckle. And I never got the chance to return her handkerchief. He reached under his pillow, pulling out a neatly folded handkerchief. I kept it here, hoping we'd meet again, even in a dream. Mori's gaze darkened at the sight of it. This is bad. Can I see it? Mori asked. Rihito, unsuspecting, handed it over. Mori brought it to his face, and inhaled deeply. Rihito's eye twitched. Are you sniffing it? You pervert. Mori ignored him, gripping the cloth tightly. This scent, finally, he lowered the handkerchief and turned away. I will protect you, Rihito. Then, without another word, he left the room. In his chamber, Mori slipped into his traditional vampire attire. His sharp features reflected in the mirror, his crimson eyes glowing with a dangerous hunger. If you fell in love with her, then she must have felt drawn to you too, he whispered. I must put an end to this excitement. With that, he vanished into the night. Standing atop a high-rise building, he gazed down at the city. My decision to live among humans led me to drink only the blood of criminals, he mused. Villains are an unnecessary part of human society, and a necessary part of my survival. He leapt down, his form a blur of darkness. Within minutes he had found his prey, a man lurking in an alley, his pockets filled with stolen goods. Mori's fangs gleamed in the moonlight. Moments later, the alley was silent. Mori wiped his lips, grimacing. Disgusting people have disgusting blood. His eyes flickered with hunger. It's been too long since I tasted fresh blood. I can't wait any longer for Rihito's fresh, untouched blood. Under the cover of darkness, Mori arrived at the girl's house. He clung upside down to her window, knocking softly. Moments later, the window creaked open. The girl gasped, stepping back in horror. Mori smiled. I'm a vampire, not a pervert. Her wide eyes stayed locked on him, and for a moment, Mori hesitated. She was adorable, a perfect meal. He should just enter, sink his fangs into her throat, and end this story. But when he tried to step inside, an invisible force repelled him. Mori scowled. Of course. These houses have talismans protecting them from supernatural creatures like me. He sighed and straightened. I have a question for you. The girl blinked. A question. Did you fall in love today? Mori asked. His voice was calm, but his eyes gleamed with something unreadable. The girl tilted her head. Love? Yes. Mori leaned in slightly. Did you fall in love with someone? Don't lie to me. The girl thought for a moment, then shook her head. I'm not in love. Mori froze. What?